my pants. Hello and welcome to Observer TV News. It's Monday, December the 8th. I'm Sara Koonar with Jessica Loduca. These are our top stories. The 20-year-old known as JSR is convicted of second-degree murder in the Jane Kriba case. The Buffalo Bills hosted the Miami Dolphins at the Rogers Center, and So You Think You Can Dance crowns Canada's favorite dancer. And now to our top story.
A 20-year-old man has been found guilty in the 2005 Boxing Day murder that claimed the life of Jane Kriba. The man, known only as JSR, has been charged with second-degree murder in the 15-year-old's death. He was also charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault. The Ontario Superior Court jury reached the final ruling after 4 days of deliberation. This is the first of 3 trials for the 9 males accused in the Yonge Street shooting. JSR returns Thursday to set a date for sentencing.
The Liberals are hoping to replace Stéphane Dion as soon as possible. It seems that Michael Ignatieff is a likely substitute with the majority of his party's support. Dion is said to be stepping down in time for the Etobicoke Lakeshore MP to become leader before Parliament returns in January. A caucus meeting on Wednesday between MPs and senators will determine if Ignatieff will become the new interim leader of the Liberal Party. How much do landlords and restaurants have in common? Well, if a Toronto community group gets its way, then a lot more than you would think. Tom Stoukas reports.
Members of ACORN turned out in force last week at City Hall. The group, the Association of Community Organizers for Reform Now, wants to see licenses for landlords. Volunteers handed out leaflets highlighting the poor state of rental housing across the city.
Lack of heating, elevators not running properly. There's a whole gamut of issues in regards to what needs to be done.
80% of Toronto's apartment buildings are more than 40 years old. That's almost 5,000 out of a total of 6,000 buildings. ACORN says they're starting to show their age, especially in low-income areas. They don't think landlords can be trusted to make repairs, which is why they want the city to step in.
What the plan was is that we're going to implement a licensing situation similar to what the restaurant business has, where if you have a green card, your business is open, your restaurant is open for business. If you have a yellow card, you're under caution, and if you have a red card, you're not open for business.
But not everybody at the meeting thought licensing was the answer. Councillor Doug Holliday was skeptical. He wants more research before the city commits any money to the idea.
How big it is? We don't know how big it is. How do we spend money to deal with something we don't know what we're dealing with?
Building auditors will report back to council in 1 year's time. They'll tell them if a licensing system is needed for city apartments. But for people living in substandard housing, that comes as little comfort.
The concert was held at St. Paul's Anglican Church and showcased 4 children's choirs. It's the largest charity performance taking part in the Toronto Star Santa Claus Fund, making it a significant fundraiser to thousands of children in need. This weekend, the Salvation Army, along with Sleep Country Canada and CHFI, teamed up for the 5th annual Give a Kid a Coat charity event. Derek Morrison reports.
It's people bringing warm winter coats out to Sherway Gardens. That was Foreigner. I'm Bob McGee, and I'm joined by Lawrence.
Bob McGee of CHFI is a spokesman for the Give a Kid a Coat charity. This weekend, he spent 50 hours living and sleeping outside of the Sherway Gardens Mall without a coat to help raise awareness for the charity.
My boss came to me and said, "Do you think you could do a day without a coat outside?" And I said, "Well, you could try." The cold is a factor, and I have a hot water bottle. It's my luxury item. There's no electrical heat in here. I just do best to keep warm.
Bob isn't the only one helping people collect coats. Don Ford, a troop Boy Scout leader, brought his scouts out for the day to help the cause. They themselves were also without coats.
We can really identify with those that don't have a coat at this time of year, so they've certainly learned of the need and they've learned that there's a lot of people in the community supporting this project as well.
The number of coats collected has increased each of the 5 years the charity has existed.
The top number was last year, 7,315 coats. This year, we've already surpassed it with more than 24 hours to go in the coat drive.
Bob McGee understands he is not working alone on this project.
I'm just a guy in a parking lot, and without people coming out, I'm still a guy in a parking lot. If they come out, then I'm a hero, because I'm the catalyst.
Bob McGee will be at the Shearway Gardens parking lot until 4 p.m. on Sunday. If you wish to donate, bring your coat down. These are actually already run the numbers. For more information, visit chfi.com. Observer Television News, I'm Derek Morrison.
Thousands of people are expected to line up along Canada's Highway of Heroes today to watch a motorcade bring home 3 soldiers who were killed in Afghanistan. Warrant Officer Robert John Wilson, Private Dimitrios Diplaros, and Corporal Mark Robert McKiernan were killed in an explosion near the city of Kandahar. These 3 are among 100 Canadian soldiers killed on duty in Afghanistan.
Vaughan Mayor Linda Jackson's husband was arrested and charged for disturbing a nightclub in York Region on Saturday. Bouncers at Berlin nightclub told police that Mario Campisi was arguing with them about allowing his son to enter the club. Staff at Berlin nightclub said he wasn't wearing the proper attire and would not let him inside. Police charged Campisi with disturbing the peace by being drunk in a public place. On his way out of the nightclub, he slipped and was sent to the hospital to treat minor injuries before spending the night in jail.
Residents of New Brunswick in Nova Scotia woke up this morning with no power. Heavy snowfall and landing on power lines caused outages, mainly in Halifax. Most of the outages should be repaired within hours, but for some it may take much longer. The repair crews are dealing with slippery road conditions.
Protesters gathered at Nathan Phillips Square on Saturday to dispute against a proposed coalition government. Liberal leader Stéphane Dion took the stage and promised to end what he dubbed Stephen Harper's destructive policies. A few blocks away, 500 pro-Harper supporters gathered in front of Queen's Park, adding to the vast amount of rallies taking place in Canada that day.
2 Swedish nationals survived a plane landing that ended with the aircraft underwater. The 2 men managed to leap out of the plane before it eventually sank south of Baffin Island. The plane reportedly had to emergency land after it lost both engines. They stood on ice for about 18 hours before the boat arrived to rescue them. The 2 men walked away with no injuries, but some frostbite on their feet. Now over to Elana with our entertainment scoop.
Thanks, and hello to everyone. Last night in the 2-hour So You Think You Can Dance finale, 24-year-old Montreal native Nico Archambault danced his way into the heart of Canadians to win first prize. Along with the title, Archambault received $100,000 and a new car. The hip-hop and contemporary dancer was able to perform several different genres of dance, which made him a favorite with judges and viewers from the start. This is the show's first season, and it averaged 1.4 million viewers per week since its start almost 3 months ago. Despite the singer's recent successful comeback and upcoming tour, life is still a circus for Britney Spears. Spears' first husband, Jason Alexander, was sent to jail for 10 days. The 27-year-old was charged with a DUI and violated the terms of his probation, but Alexander may only have to stay in jail a maximum of 7 days due to the jail being overcrowded. Back in 2004, Spears married Alexander in a Las Vegas ceremony, but had the marriage annulled shortly after. After revisions were made to a Harry Potter-themed encyclopedia, Steve Vander Ark revealed at a press conference that he will still have his work based on the series published. The former school librarian lost a lawsuit against J.K. Rowling over the publication of the encyclopedia, but will have it released in a bookstore in Michigan after he and his publisher released a statement saying that they met the requirements of the judge regarding the book. Even after all the hype it received and the successful box office ratings, Catherine Hardwicke, director of the film Twilight, will not be returning for the sequel New Moon, which is set to be released in 2010. The director says that due to previous engagements and a scheduling conflict, she will not be able to work on the second film. Summit Films and Hardwicke split on good terms, says the production company. It was 3 years in the making, but the moment finally arrived after over $275 million in renovations. The newly renovated Art Gallery of Ontario opened its doors to the public Friday. Ryan Sang has the story.
The doors opened and the crowds came pouring in. Thousands lined the street to catch a first glimpse of the new Art Gallery of Ontario. For many like Kath McCullough, this moment was picture perfect. She and her sister Rose came all the way from Scotland just for this occasion. They recently discovered they are related to a Toronto-based artist. As some waited outside for hours, officials inside held a ceremony to thank those who donated. On hand was Toronto Mayor David Miller, who addressed the crowd. But this was a special moment for Matthew Teitelbaum, the director and CEO for the gallery. He thanked those who came to the opening. Distinctive winding staircases and glass ceilings the Frank Gehry design took 3 years to finish. The gallery houses art, but the building is a work of art too.
Close to 25,000 guests are expected at the AGO, and that's just for opening night. If you haven't made plans to come to the AGO yet, there's still time. Admission is free all weekend long. For more information, visit www.ago.net. I'm Ryan Sang, Observer TV News.
Coming up after the break, a look at the box office winners over the weekend and the latest movie releases hitting the shelves later this week.
The American Music Awards, tomorrow at 8, 7 Central on CTV.
Polite society tells us that it's rude to stare. But then along came the 2005 Nissan Altima. With a new, redesigned interior and a sleek, new, refined exterior. So go ahead, stare. Frankly, it'd be rude not to. Now get the Altima 2.5S Extra loaded with $1,000 worth of no-charge options.
Looking for affordable home ideas? Come to a Sears Home Store. It's the Buyer's Best Buy sale. Get this Dreamfiber sofa for just $899.99. Plus, get this queen-size sleigh bed for just $899.97. And don't pay until January 2006. For great selection, great prices, and great service, there's only one place you need to go. Sears.
Well, when you work in television, you want to make people happy. You should have a great smile. Michael, I had to find somebody I could trust.
I'm Dr. Mark Coachman, and I personally make sure everyone receives the most advanced care no matter how serious their condition. Together, we can achieve the smile makeover you deserve.
The Coachman Center, 1-888 Newmouth.
So change your smile.
And change your life. Thanks, buddy.
Santa Margherita is the saint of impossible causes. Men pray to her when they need to be forgiven. Women pray to her when they are going to have children.
From the depths of tradition comes an epic story of one family's quest for forgiveness.
No!
Sophia Loren in a CTV exclusive, Lives of the Saints. Coming in January. Brought to you in part by Scotiabank. Life, money, balance both.
Well, there was a lot of Christmas cheer at the box office this weekend, with 4 Christmases dominating the movie-going audiences. Starring Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn, the festive holiday flick took over $18 million, followed by Twilight with $13 million. Rounding out third was Disney's Bolt at just under $10 million. Coming to theaters this week, though, is the remake of the sci-fi classic The Day the Earth Stood Still. It stars Keanu Reeves as a human-like alien come to our planet to save the world from itself. And it hits multiplexes and IMAX theaters alike this Friday. And one of the most anticipated home releases in recent memory hits the shelves tomorrow on DVD and Blu-ray. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight raked in millions of dollars and plenty of critical acclaim during its time in theaters. With the movie's arrival on store shelves, it stands to be the gift favorite this holiday season. And the late Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker still has critics talking Oscar, and that speculation is expected to continue into the new year until the Academy announces its nominations. Well, the rain didn't stop people from lining up around the block at Yonge and Dundas. They were there for their chance to buy a piece from Japan's Comme des Garçons designer collection at H&M. Jill Clausen reports.
We're here on November 13th at Yonge and Dundas Square, H&M, where Coupe de Garçon is launching their collaboration with the retail giant. We're just waiting for the doors to open right now. There's a line stretched around the block, and people have been waiting here since 8:30 last night in this lovely, lovely rain that we're having.
The collaboration between H&M and Ray Kawakubo, the head designer for Comme des Garçons, was announced on October 7th. Kawakubo designed a men's and women's collection.
Yeah, I've previewed the entire collection. There's a couple things I'm like queuing up for, you know, that I'm crossing my fingers.
It's my daughter, it's my day off, and she took me here for like, I'm excited though, 10 minutes. What's the color? Some waffles on it?
When the stores opened their doors at 10 a.m., over 200 Comme des Garçons fans rushed in. The Swedish retailer has worked with many high-end designers in the past, like Karl Lagerfeld and Stella McCartney. Each time a collection is released, it sells out almost immediately. Within a few hours, it was difficult to find any Comme des Garçons merchandise left on the racks.
This is Jill Clausen, Observer TV News.
And that's all for me. Now I'll send it over to Mike and Derek for sports.
Thanks, Geoff, and hi everyone. I'm Michael McKiernan with Derek Morrison, and here is the latest in sports.
Yesterday marked a monumental moment in Canadian sports history. The first ever regular season NFL game in Canada took place in Toronto as the Buffalo Bills hosted the Miami Dolphins at the Rogers Centre. Unfortunately, the actual game did not match the pre-game hype. Miami took the Yawner 16-3. The Bills failed to score a touchdown, which kept the relatively quiet Toronto crowd out of the game. Leading up to the game, many Bills fans, including former quarterback Jim Kelly, cried out to open the Rogers Centre roof to make the game as intimidating as possible for Miami, but the roof remained shut and Miami took advantage. The loss dropped Buffalo to 6-7 and basically out of the playoff race. Miami now sits at 8-5 and in the thick of the wild card hunt.
The Buffalo Bills weren't the only flops in Toronto last night. The Raptors lost a heartbreaker at the Air Canada Centre. The Portland Trail Blazers grabbed a 1-point win with less than 10 seconds left on the clock. Jermaine O'Neal led Toronto with 24 points, but they couldn't pull away from the Trail Blazers. The game finished 98-97 to take the Raptors to their fourth defeat in a row. They'll get a chance to bounce back tomorrow night in Cleveland, but don't get too excited, Raptors fans. The Cavaliers have won their last 8 in a row.
Switching over to the NHL, a report surfaced this morning out of Buffalo that Sabres owner Tom Golisano is listening to offers and putting the team up for sale. The Sabres have denied the reports to this point, but that has not stopped the talking heads of the NHL from starting speculation. Jim Balcelli, the Research in Motion founder and longtime NHL club shopper, is named in the report as having been approached to purchase the team. Balcelli had tried to acquire a team for a few years now, and most recently came close to buying the Nashville Predators in 2007. Balcelli is passionate about bringing another NHL team to Canada, with Hamilton the most named destination. This love for Canada has not sat well with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, and that is said to be one of the reasons Jimmy B does not have a team yet.
It was a quiet night on the ice yesterday in the NHL. Only 2 Canadian teams were in action. The Vancouver Canucks lost 5-4 in a shootout against Colorado, while the Calgary beat the New York Rangers 3-0. The Maple Leafs are back in action tonight at the Air Canada Centre. They're looking to snap a 3-game losing streak against the New York Islanders, but they'll have to do it without Luke Schenn, who injured his knee in Saturday's loss to Washington. The rookie defenseman has been a rare bright spot for Leaf Nation this season.
And speaking of organizations that drive their fans nuts, the Bowl Championship Series, or the BCS, released the schedule for the NCAA National Championship game. After all the complaints, groans, and outrage, the matchup looks like it will be a great one. The SEC champion Florida Gators will face the Big 12 champion Oklahoma Sooners on January 8th in Miami. The matchup features teams from the 2 best conferences this year, explosive offenses, and 2 Heisman Trophy caliber quarterbacks in Tim Tebow and Sam Bradford. Other Big Bowl matchups include Penn State versus USC at the Rose Bowl, Utah versus Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, Ohio State versus Texas at the Fiesta Bowl, and Cincinnati versus Virginia Tech at the Orange Bowl.
Staying with university football, the UTSC Spartans team plays no matter what the weather. Here's Observer TV's Musna Siddiqui with that story.
Even though it's pouring out here, the Scarborough Spartans are gearing up to play against downtown's PT Flash team. Coach Geoff believes that the Spartans are going to win, despite the wet conditions.
A really fast team, so whenever you have a really fast team, the rain does play a little bit of an effect, slows everyone down. Luckily the field isn't too muddy, so we'll be able to use our speed to our advantage, so hopefully it won't hinder us that much.
The Spartans almost had a perfect season, but because of a technical error, they had to replay a match. They finished their season 5-1. CC Louis says that the team still has a lot of high spirits going into the game.
It's going to be really tight. This is a good team. They beat us in the final last year as well, after 5 converts. So that was an insane of a game, and I'm expecting this to be exactly the same, because they're a good team, but I believe we're better. So hopefully that comes out today.
Louis also says this has been one of the best football seasons they've had.
It's a really great team that I'm on. Everyone's really supportive. Everyone's great, so I'm really excited.
Well, it looks like the rain is still coming down hard, but the UTSC Spartans should still prevail. This is Musna Siddiqui reporting for Centennial College News.
Attempts in Toronto to make bike sharing a popular way to commute have come and gone. But a system developed in Montreal is showing North Americans that the bikes can be used as part of the public transit system. Bryden Suits has the story.
Montreal's parking authority brought their homegrown bike-sharing system, Bixi, to Toronto for people on the street to get a look at and try out. The parking authority's vice president said the system was the result of a need for a more active, eco-friendly way to get around town.
It started with the transportation plan that the city of Montreal put ahead last year. A big place was for active transportation, and bicycle sharing was part of that.
Toronto councillor Adrian Heaps wants a bike sharing program in the city next year. He has not said what kind of system they will go with. From the outset, Bixi's creators wanted their system to be easy for commuters to use.
You'll have a little key like this, and you'll be able to unlock the bike just by putting it in right away. So kind of like this, just put it in, and when the signal is green, you just take the bike out and you leave and you do your ride. And once you're done, you go back to another station and you just put it in, and the bike locks up by itself, just like that.
Bixi's sleek design and user-friendly nature could offer commuters another way to get around Toronto's busy downtown core. Bike sharing in Toronto has not had a successful history. The buzz Bixi brought with it may just be the push it needed.
I mean, I ride my bike regularly, but if I happen to be, downtown without my bike and I needed to get somewhere quickly, I think that I would use this.
Where other plans have failed in the past, this new plan seems to have wheels. This is Bryden Suits, Observer Television, Toronto.
The biggest name in women's golf has finally joined her club. Michelle Wie finished in the top 20 at a qualifying tournament yesterday in Florida to win membership of the LPGA Tour. That's the association that runs professional women's golf. Wie has played on the tour for 7 years, but organizers had to make exceptions to let her take part. That special treatment caused some tension with other players, but now the 19-year-old can finally say she's earned her place.
And in our sports blooper story of the day, Fox Network has some explaining to do after the Minnesota Vikings defeated the Detroit Lions yesterday. After the game, Fox cameras were in the Vikings locker room to shoot some footage of the Vikings celebration and victory speech from head coach Brad Childress. Though the speech was great, what Fox failed to notice was that Minnesota tight end Visanthe Shenko was standing to the left nude, giving the national audience a full frontal. Fox has issued an apology for the mishap. I guess you could always count on Fox to keep it classy.
And to finish, England's cricket team has stood up in the face of terrorism. The team left India after the attacks in Mumbai 2 weeks ago, but this morning they returned to finish their tour of the country. Indian police have provided 5,000 security guards for the team while they're in the country. Hugh Morris, the head of the England Cricket Board, called the decision to return, quote, brave and courageous. England plays India on Thursday in the southern city of Chennai. And we have some late breaking news. Stéphane Dion has announced he will step down as Liberal leader. As expected, it ends a rocky tenure and clears the way for a successor to take hold of the party. Dion issued a statement on Monday outlining his plans to, quote, step aside as leader of the Liberal Party, effective as soon as my successor is duly chosen. He said recent political changes have forced him to reconsider his earlier decision to stay on as leader of the Liberal Party until a convention scheduled for May. And that's all from me. Now over to Tom with the latest in the entertainment news.
Thanks, Michael. And hello, everybody. Well, Heath Ledger continues to garner praise for his portrayal of the psychotic Joker in the smash hit The Dark Knight. Ledger, who died last year from a drug overdose, was named this year's Best Actor by the Australian Film Institute. It's the country's most prestigious acting award. The award may be a preview for the upcoming Oscars, where Ledger would challenge for Best Supporting Actor. After what was described as a terrible year, the Bare Naked Ladies returned to the stage for a sold-out show at Massey Hall. The band thanked fans for their support during the past year. Lead singer Stephen Page was arrested for possession of cocaine. The charges against Page, if he stays out of trouble for 6 months. Okay. Guitarist Ed Robertson also had a tough year. He survived a plane crash in Northern Ontario earlier this year. The ladies will be making a series of appearances both live and on TV in the next few months. Next up, a famous theatre group based out of the University of Toronto is bringing a famous musical to life. Catherine Wellman takes us behind the scenes to the making of Urinetown.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The award-winning musical Urinetown is making waves at the University of Toronto. UC Follies, a theatre group of community actors and students, have begun rehearsing for their early 2009 debut. Director Neil Silcock says this year's production was chosen for its simplicity.
It's a relatively simple show in that there's nothing really crazy complex going on, but it's still a really great show. It's really fun. It's sort of sophomore humor.
Already halfway into rehearsals, Silcox and music director Tara Lickback have been impressed by the process so far.
They're very, very intensive, really have to, go through pitches like crazy and teach harmonies like crazy, but they've been going fine, just very intensive already, and hopefully it'll be good by the time of the show.
Although the resulting crew is excited about production, the directors admit audition turnout was low at the casting calls.
It was a little lower this year than we had expected before, and part of that was sort of miscommunication in our casting call, and part of that also was that we weren't trying to reach out as much to the community outside the university.
Now with the final cast, intensive rehearsals will continue into the new year. UC Follies production of Urinetown opens February 5th, 2009 at Hart House at the University of Toronto. For more information, visit uftix.com. For Observer TV News, I'm Catherine Wellman.
At the box office this weekend, Four Christmases, a comedy starring Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn, came out on top, taking in $18 million at the box office. The pair play a married couple forced to spend Christmases with four different sets of parents. Coming in second was the vampire flick Twilight with $14 million, and the animated movie Bolt finished third with $10 million. The epic Australia came in fourth with $7 million, and rounding out the top five was the latest Bond outing, Quantum of Solace, with just under $7 million. Well, after 9 weeks of dancing, we have a winner. 24-year-old Nico Archambault won the title of Canada's favorite dancer. Archambault, who comes from Quebec, garnered more than 3 million audience votes. The win gives Archambault bragging rights as Canada's top dancer. He also gets a brand new Mercedes-Benz.
Welcome back. 3 Canadian soldiers returned to Canada today after being killed in Afghanistan. On Friday, their armored vehicle was hit by an improvised explosive device. Their deaths are the 98th, 99th, and 100th of Canadian soldiers. They're expected to land at NFB Trenton around 2 o'clock today and will travel along the Highway of Heroes. Thousands are expected to gather on bridges over the 401 to pay their respects. With the arrival of 12 new transport helicopters in Afghanistan, some troops will fly instead of drive. This will hopefully decrease the number of deaths by roadside bombs. More than 50% of the deaths this year have been by roadside bombs.
In international news this hour, riots are still crippling many major cities in Greece. This is the third day of unrest following the shooting death of a teenage boy by Athens police earlier this week. Destruction is widespread despite efforts by authorities to calm the rioters using tear gas and other crowd control techniques.
2 Swedish men were airlifted to Iqaluit this morning after a harrowing weekend. On Sunday, they sent out a mayday that said they had double engine failure, and their plane crashed into the Arctic waters around Nunavut. They managed to get into a life raft where they stayed for 18 hours. A fishing vessel sent to the area to search for them pulled the 2 men from the raft. The men are said to be in good condition but may have frostbite on their feet. They are traveling from Newfoundland to Iqaluit.
And a key victory in the investigation into the devastating attacks in Mumbai, India last month was won by Pakistani forces on Sunday. Troops raided a camp in the country's Kashmiri region that is believed to have been used as a main base for the militants who masterminded the attack. The camp is owned by Jamit-ud-Dawa, a charitable organization that used the camp as a relief site for victims of the major earthquake that hit the region in 2005. And it was 3 years in the making but the moment finally arrived. After over $270 million in renovations, the Art Gallery of Ontario opened its doors to the public on Friday. Ryan Sang has the story.
The doors opened and the crowds came pouring in. Thousands lined the street to catch a first glimpse of the new Art Gallery of Ontario. For many like Kath McCullough, this moment was picture perfect. She and her sister Rose came all the way from Scotland just for this occasion. They recently discovered they are related to a Toronto-based artist. As some waited outside for hours, officials inside held a ceremony to thank those who donated. On hand was Toronto Mayor David Miller, who addressed the crowd. But this was a special moment for Matthew Teitelbaum, the director and CEO for the gallery. He thanked those who came to the opening. Distinctive winding staircases and glass ceilings, the Frank Gehry design took 3 years to finish. The gallery is art, but the building is a work of art.
Close to 25,000 guests are expected at the AGO, and that's just for opening night. If you haven't made plans to come to the AGO yet, there's still time. Admission is free all weekend long. For more information, visit www.ago.net. I'm Ryan Sang, Observer TV News.
The journalism newsroom at Centennial College got a facelift this summer, but as Abby Crosby reports, there are still some kinks to work out.
Returning journalism students were greeted by a renovated newsroom this fall.
I think the ultimate goal was to relieve congestion around the radio television facility.
Not everyone was pleased with the changes. One student points out the flaws of the new design.
They haven't really succeeded in dividing the newsroom up in a better way so that online can have some privacy. All they've really done is made it more difficult for the newsprint side to work in here.
Steve Kogan recognizes the issues.
The problem was that left the conference area for online homeless. Now, fortunately, the faculty who run online, Ted Barris and Neil Ward, have been pretty gracious and have accepted their being moved out of this area into another area on campus for the purpose of meetings.
Faculty wanted to upgrade the space to a CP24 style newsroom. They've outfitted the room with editing equipment and an anchor desk.
I have no idea how this room is going to be used for the TV course yet.
Students will produce stories and broadcast live from the newsroom. This is where all the magic will happen, and according to program coordinator Steve Kogan, it'll all happen when students are ready to go on air. For Observer Television, I'm Abby Crosby.
Canadians applying for passports have a little something more to worry about than their passport picture. The Privacy Commission released its annual report to Parliament, which showed Canada is far behind in protecting the privacy of Canadians. The report found there are serious security risks with how the private information of Canadians is stored. Some of the problems were the applications and other documents were stored in clear bags on open shelves. Personal information went into regular garbage and recycling bins without being shredded. And too many employees have access to information through the computer systems, the report said. The commissioner made 15 recommendations, including hiring a chief privacy officer and better training employees. Passport Canada processed over 3.5 million applications between 2006 and 2007.
The Irish government has issued a warning to consumers in the UK to stay away from Irish pork products. Toxic levels of dioxins, a group of chemical compounds formed through combustion, chlorine, bleaching, and manufacturing processes, have been found mainly in breakfast sausages and back bacon. Irish officials are now looking into how dioxins were found in samples from over 10 different farms before contamination becomes more widespread.
Yesterday marked another crazy Christmas tradition. Dozens of people lined up for the Honest Ed's Christmas turkey giveaway. People got one free turkey and one free fruitcake. It's a tradition that has been going for over 21 years. Honest Ed's son, David Mervish, said the tradition began with 25-cent turkeys, but because of hard economic times, they made the turkeys free. Toronto Argonauts' Mike Pinball Clemens was there to help hand out the turkeys.
And finally, a new report suggests our furry companions may have a much wider range of emotions than originally thought. The study found evidence that dogs, as well as horses and several other mammals, can experience complex emotions such as jealousy and pride, as well as having a sense of fair play when it comes to interacting with other animals and humans. Previously, it was believed that only humans and chimpanzees had the capacity to feel these emotions.
And that's our show for the night and for the year. Conor, how do you plan to celebrate the holidays?
Well, I'll be going down to my hometown of Brantford, where Wayne Gretzky's from, and maybe catch a hockey game.
Sounds like a good plan. On behalf of all of us here at Observer TV News, thanks for watching and have a great evening.
Bye-bye now.